Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Board Game Geek Show for March 8th, 2018. I am your host, Scott Alden, Aldi on Twitter and Board Game Geek, and I'm once again joined by my lovely co-hosts, W. Eric Martin and Lincoln Dammers. Hey, guys, how's it going?
Hey, Scott. Hey, Eric.
Very good.
Welcome back from France.
Thanks.
Woo. By way of Denmark.
By way of Switzerland.
Let's start off this week with everybody's favorite segment. What have you been playing? I know you guys just got back from Cannes in France and played a lot of stuff while you were there, or maybe you didn't. You saw a lot of stuff, but what have you been playing, Eric?
I'll start with oh, wait. We've already covered the mine, but we were playing it continuously on camera, introducing it to more people. Antoine Baza said he picked it up and was just like, it was awesome. So thanks for the recommendation. So I'll just continue talking about that. Steffen Benndorf's Verflucht, which is another cooperative game from him, designer of the game. This one is kind of weird because you have enemies that come at you and artifact cards to prevent those enemies. And they're both numbered 1 to 40, and ideally you line them up perfectly, and that is the only way to win. And I've only played solo so far like 5 times, haven't even come close. So I don't even know how this works really well. The Bark Side. This is one of 4 games I've played that we featured on the live stream. Played it with Lincoln. Maybe Lincoln talks about it too. This is an odd trick taker by Kotaro Kanda, and the whole goal is to not take the last trick. And if you do take the last trick in a hand, then you have to take the highest card in the trick and the 2 lowest cards in the trick. And those cards are now out of play in front of you. And you play another round. And you keep playing rounds until someone has 7 different types of cards in front of them. In which case the game ends, that person loses, and whoever has the fewest cards wins. So very simple rules. And yet it took us the entire game, I think, to even figure out what we were supposed to be doing in terms of like how to play a hand. So it was kind of interesting.
That seems like a challenging game.
I was the one who actually lost that game, that game we played, and it's really, really good, but it is really hard to figure out how to play your hand because you basically want to destroy other people's strong hands, which I did successfully several rounds where I would play 3 of a kind, and Nikki and Eric would have to break up their things that would get cards out of their hands. So it was kind of brutal.
That's right. I missed the most important point. If you can't beat someone on a trick, then you have to discard your lowest cards. And that is how you...
Yeah, it's weird.
That's the sticking point of the game, is that you want to win tricks, which means playing your high cards so that you have control and you force other people to discard, but it's hard to do that.
Absolutely.
So another game played with Lincoln was Dragons, a new Bruno Faidutti game. Bruno presented it on camera in Cannes, and we'll have that video up
soon.
Sometime soon, hopefully. And this is a 3 to 6 player game in which you're all dragons dividing loot. And it's a very simple game where you're just making as many piles as the number of players, and you're just turning over a card in your turn and putting it on one of those piles, or placing your dragon on a pile and taking it. And everyone gets one of the piles, and you do that 3 or 4 times. And then you look at all your stuff. And if you haven't eaten enough food, you're out of the game. You have starved to death. And of all the dragons who survive, whoever has the best collection of stuff wins. It's super simple, and yet, I don't know. It's kind of weird. I've only played with 3 players so far, so need to play that again.
I had a real fun time with it. The interesting thing was I actually did kind of poorly at first. I kept not getting enough food. Eric was very quick he was always, I think, the first one to claim a pile. And so I got a lot of polish, which is actually an interesting set. If you collect those, it's 6 points for each one that you have. Is that what the deal was?
Each one is worth as many points as the number of them that you have.
Okay, so there you go. I had 6 of them. And it was huge for me in the end. And I just lucked out with just enough food to tie with Nikki to stay in the game because I'd have been out. So it's a weird one, but it's really kind of cool. I ended up distributing what I thought was good cards to every pile so that if I got stuck with a pile, I'd at least have something. It was kind of weird. And when Eric grabbed the first pile in the first round, I'm like, wow, that's kind of soon. But he was doing really well there, it looked like.
It looked like, briefly. Not well enough. Carta Impera Victoria. This is a civilization card game from Ludonaute and Rémi. And this is a 2 to 4 player game, which the Civ game is abstracted almost to its bare core. cards have no text, and you get powers from cards, which come in 6 domains, only when you collect sets of them or when you discard one of them from your collection. And you're trying to have 7 cards of a domain in your collection, and you instantly win. Or if the deck runs out, then whoever has majorities in the most domains wins. And I played this twice so far, and both games were extremely different, and it's hard to even know what to do. You're trying to combo the different powers as you put things in front of you. One of the powers lets you leech off someone else's power, so you can take advantage of things that you don't have. And there's lots of back and forth, lots of attacking, lots of card stealing. It's very vicious for a little 20-minute Civ game. So, I don't know. We'll explore that more soon. Finally, welcome from Blue Clocker Games and Benoit Turpin. And this is a roll and write game, which is actually fairly involved. There's lots of stuff going on where you are trying to build houses on a street, and the houses have to be numbered in numerical order. And you want to put pools on them, and you want to put parks on the street, and you want to hire workers and increase the value of little subdivisions on the street. And there's all this stuff going on in what's a fairly simple roll and write game. It's pretty cool. There's lots of interesting stuff to think about as you're all playing simultaneously and building your own streets. And of course, doing your own thing, and then you'll see who wins afterward. You compare sheets.
That one looked really good. I was very excited about it when Blue Clocker demoed it at the fair.
I was really happy too that like Bruno Faidutti coming on camera and Rémi showing Civ, and then we had Benoit showing Welcome. It was really great going to con and being able to have the designers present their own games. Bruno Cathala, I think, was on 3 or 4 times.
Absolutely.
It was a lot. And it was just, it's cool just because, I don't know, a spiel usually it seems to be the publisher more than the designer.
Yeah.
And con, it was really much like the designers all the time being like, let me tell you what I'm doing.
The guy that really ended up being on camera all the time was Matthew Dunstan. He kept coming and helping us out. It was so great the final day to have him around. And that brings me to Strike. So when I was the tiny bit of the fair that I got to go around on the final day, Nikki's like, go, you'll never see anything. And I found the Ravensburger area, and they had a giant Strike arena that was just spectacular. So I shot a little tiny bit of video of that on my iPhone, and then bought two copies, brought them back, played it with, introduced it to Matthew, and he's like, oh, he wanted to get it really bad, and he was on like one of those budget airlines in Europe where they really restrict your luggage, and he ended up going and buying it. But then Scott wanted us to buy 2 more copies because they still make the original version in France, and they're going to continue even though Impact is coming from Ravensburger now. So, which is great because I'm excited about the new one, but I also love the old one. So that was really cool.
That's right. It's a good thing that I took all your games home in my luggage.
Yeah, no kidding.
To bring them to you in Gamma. Otherwise, you would have had room for nothing.
Absolutely. Well, poor Nikki, she still lugged most of it back because I had all gear. I brought none of my clothes back. The other game that we played was Castell, which is a new one from Aaron Vanderbeek and Renegade.
Right.
And that is actually quite a neat game. It's one of those ones where, the turn player going around the board actually messes with your brain. You must pay attention to who's going to be playing before you because you do all this planning ahead, and you have such a limited amount of things that you can do. So movement is kind of restricted, and so you have to make sure that hopefully by the time it is your turn, when it comes back to you, you'll be able to do things you were hoping to do. It's really quite an interesting game. Scott, what did you play?
So speaking of Civilization games, I played Sid Meier's Civilization: A New Dawn by Fantasy Flight Games and designed by James Niffen. James Niffen has also designed Forbidden Stars and a couple other things I'm drawing a blank on right now, but he's a prolific Fantasy Flight Games designer, and I was really blown away by this game. Normally, Civ games get a lot of press and a lot of buzz, but this one I didn't really see much buzz about until I saw Steph Hodge playing it a lot, and she kept playing it over and over. And to me, if Steph Hodge plays a game more than once, that's usually gets on my radar. So we pulled it out this weekend and played it, and I was just blown away. I think it's a very cool system. I know some people are disappointed that it doesn't have like a lot of like war units, like where you're building, tanks and fighters and all that stuff. It's kind of more of an abstracted type combat. But the coolest thing about the game is you have 5 technology cards, and they are in a line 1 through 5, and the further up the line they are, the higher the power. So if you use a card in the 5th slot, you get 5 power worth of whatever that card tells you to do, whether that being crossing difficult terrain or increasing your technology level by like 5 or whatever. And so that combined with a Civ game where you're not really exploring in this game, it's missing one of the X's, but the cool part about the game is that technology track, which I would love to see in other games. I think it's a really cool idea. And that it gave me one of those feelings that I get when I play a game that I really like, that, that tingle, like, ooh, this is pretty neat. And what if I do that? And what if I do this? And all those things started happening. And then by the end, the game is over, and it's like a 2-hour game. So 2-hour Civ games with a pretty good amount of meat is definitely a keeper in my book. So that was Sid Meier's Civilization: A New Dawn from Fantasy Flight Games.
Cool.
So moving on to news and new releases coming out. Big news of the week is Funagain has announced that they're shutting down their online game stores and their fulfillment service, which is huge. Funagain's been around pre-BGG days, so that's more than 18 years at least. I don't know how much longer than that, but I think it's been probably around 20 years.
22, I thought they were 1996.
That's way longer than I thought it would be then. So yeah, and I remember back in the day, and this is another sad moment, like with Mayfair shutting down, now Funagain's shutting down. I mean, they're still keeping a brick and mortar store, but no online. So
2 stores, actually.
Unless you're going to go to Ashland. It's in Ashland, Oregon, I believe. Funagain will not have a presence anymore, and I assume at conventions as well. So it's kind of a big step back from what they previously were. But I remember back in the day when I was first getting into hobby games, I was writing to them because they were the ones that found you the old games. I think it was like their shtick was like, old games will fun again, become fun again was the thing. So if you were looking for an old game, they would find it for you. Like that was their original business model.
Wow.
So I was looking for some old Games Workshop games, and I remember writing to customer support and asking to see if they had those games, and they had never heard of them, which was kind of funny. But there was no BGG back then, so they couldn't look it up. And it was just kind of like this mysterious, like, ooh, what game is that? You'd never heard of that before. But I definitely used them a lot in the old days, and I still had ordered, I ordered stuff from them just last month. So that's a blow to the game industry. Sorry to see Funagain go. Do you guys have any experience with Funagain games that you want to talk about?
They were the ones that my mom would always go to buy the games that I wanted for gifts. I mean, she always went to Funagain. And I have been buying them from them the entire time that I've been buying games. Not as much recently, only with maybe like the Spielwerks games, and just because I don't really go and buy that much stuff. But it's terrible actually. I don't. It seemed like they were doing really, really well. Their fulfillment and Kickstarter shipping thing seemed like that was going to be a big deal for them. I don't quite understand what happened. I know that they did a lot of growth recently, where they had got a new warehouse. And they were very excited about it. So I don't know what happened. It's very odd. Maybe we'll get more ahead. I think we're going to see some of those people at Gamma.
I asked someone at Funagain if they'd want to talk on record about why they're closing, what's going on behind the scenes. Person said, not right now. So maybe things will come out in the future. Maybe it wasn't related to business at all. Maybe business was fine and there were just other things going on. Maybe we'll learn in time. I've ordered from Funagain plenty since I started in the hobby industry in the early 2000s. The sort of split at that time between Adamsfield and Funagain. And now the Adamsfield's been away for more than a decade, and now Funagain's dropped off as well. So it's interesting to see. I still have a gift certificate I need to use.
You better hurry. The games are going fast. They also had an online sale, liquidation sale, which is they're really selling everything. It looked like almost everything was going up, and some definite gems in there for sure.
They had 3,300 titles or so listed on the sale, but they have 5,700 total. So not everything's on sale yet. They'll clear away stuff, and then I assume.
Well, they need to keep some for the actual, brick and mortar store.
Don't think they need thousands of titles, though.
No, probably not on there. Hey, speaking of thousands of titles, if you want to use that as a segue, Steve Jackson Games published its annual stakeholders report, which they do each year, giving a report on the company. And they're one of the few companies that actually talk about sales figures as well as kind of the overall state of their own business. So for 2017, Steve Jackson Games reported a gross income of $5.5 million, which was $500,000 less than in 2016. They estimate they'll probably roughly break even when they get their final numbers in shortly. I know a lot of what their work has been going towards is getting the Munchkin collectible card game out, which just hit in February 2018. So, of course, they had zero sales from that, but all the expenses of that in the previous year. But what was funny, though, is Phil Reed, CEO of Steve Jackson, in his report mentioned how the game industry is becoming very much a periodicals business, where you're not selling things that will, grow over time and they'll have this sales growth. It really is things hitting the shelf, and if they don't succeed in the first couple of weeks, whoop, they're gone. And that really reminds me of the days when I worked in a comic store, and it was kind of that same thing where everything got on the shelf, the new shelf, for the first week that it was there, and then after that it gets, lumped with everything else, and it's just kind of off the radar for the most part. And so it's interesting to think about that idea of the games being periodicals sort of tying in with how so many games that seem to be hitting the market are kind of new editions of older games, whether you have the straight reprint of Finca or the new edition of Endeavor or Medieval Merchant coming back as franchise or the new version of Manhattan last year for this 23-year-old game, and Gaia Project being Turpin. It just, there's all this on and on and on where it's the game is out there, right? You still have the older games in some cases, or Eclipse was out and was doing fine, and now there's a new edition after roughly 5 years. And I don't know, it's sort of like this big cycling of everything coming back. You want to get publicity and be in people's minds. So now we have a new edition. It's refreshed and out again.
Sounds much like Hollywood, right? With the reboots of movies, things that, were out 20 years ago are resurfacing as new versions or sequels or iterations of the game or the movie.
Or a few years ago, if you're talking about Spider-Man.
Blade Runner, Spider-Man, name it. They're all coming back. It's all coming back eventually. I'm surprised there's not a new Godfather movie yet. I hope they do make one, though.
I heard people talk about remaking The Matrix, and you're just like, wait a minute. That can't... No! Except it is almost 20 years old.
So 20 years is like that time, right? Like that's enough time to forget about it, generation, pass through. So maybe the board games industry is generational as well. However, there's a couple new games I found on Kickstarter this week that super caught my eye. I'm backed both of them right away. The first one was Batman Chronicles, which is the minis version of Batman with the Conan system. So they're using the Conan, combat system with the cool trays where you have the cards sliding down, which is really neat. And they're doing that for Batman. And the minis look spectacular, of course. I think you guys got to see some of those minis in Cannes painted.
They're gorgeous.
We did. They were at Gen Con. I think they were at Cannes. We recorded an overview of the game in 2017 when we were there, when they were just starting to show it. I was brand new. I knew nothing about it and just saw the big banners everywhere, and we recorded something. And now it's being on Kickstarter for release in mid-2019.
Wow.
So it's this long cycle of selling and marketing.
It's interesting. And as of this day, to this recording, they've raised $2.4 million, which is just mind-boggling to me. Where you said the full annual revenue of Steve Jackson Games was $5.5 million. And so they're just $2.5 million with this huge minis game. I mean, it's just kind of interesting to kind of compare the numbers, just these astronomical Kickstarter figures with an established brand that's been around for 30 plus years, Steve Jackson.
Well, of course, this is coming from Monolith, and Monolith a couple of years ago raised $3.3 million for Conan, right? Which you mentioned, this is sort of new Conan system within the Batman universe. And it's funny because the Batman project is Kickstarter exclusive. not going to retail. It will be available to backers. I assume they'll have some for sales at conventions. But they said in the comments about the project that they essentially made no money doing the Conan Kickstarter because to go to retail, they had to drop their price, their margins so much for their distributor that they made nothing.
That's amazing.
So
Is that because of the IP, you think?
yeah, because there's the license as well. And of course, Batman has its own license and you're going to pay those licensing fees. And so they said, if we were going to go to retail, it would have to have like a $300 MSRP.
Right.
If we were going to go through distribution again and actually make money on it. So now Kickstarter only, which is not uncommon for a number of Kickstarter projects. And it seems simpler to just say, we're going to do this project, we fulfill it, and we're done. Don't have to worry about it.
And then do a second edition 5 years from now.
And do a second edition, sure. Or a new print run or whatever it is. But it makes things simpler.
They announced their new game, Solomon Kane, at the show at Cannes.
Yeah,
which
they
had
did.
Another fantastic set of minis and a very cool co-op system that I'm really looking forward to. So maybe that's the new era of game companies to make money. I mean, I'm really shocked to hear they didn't make any money off Conan, but just selling direct to consumers and the stores. Now you got an online store that obviously couldn't quite make it with Funagain shutting down. That direct to Kickstarter or crowdfunding direct to consumer is definitely taking its toll.
It was kind of funny, too, that you mentioned Funagain going down or not succeeding because of this. And Funagain was not a bargain basement online store. They did not cut prices down to where you thought it was impossible for them to survive. They generally had, I think, a maximum 20% discount on everything. They didn't go 35%, 40% off on stuff. So it wasn't like they were trying to be the rock bottom price. They were getting a margin on the games, but...
Of course, we're speculating the reasons why Funagain shut down, but that could be one of the reasons, just the money, and not being able to compete in the market today.
Perhaps we should not engage in rash speculation about why Funagain is shutting down.
So apparently it's a good month to have the word Chronicles in the title of your game. The next Kickstarter I saw that I was really blown away by is Chronicles of Crime, which I think purports to be one of the first VR board games that's been made. I'm not sure about that, but sounds good. The cool mechanic in this one is you are investigating a crime where you're using your device and you've got these 3D, the stereoscopic vision goggles that let you move your head around and look for clues. And then it's also your detective scanner, so you can scan items. And the coolest thing about this is it's not a play once and done game. The components are abstract. They're a whole bunch of different characters and a whole bunch of different items, and those items and characters and places can all be mixed and matched to create different crimes that you have to solve. So that's exciting, and I assume it's kind of open that you could maybe make your own. At least if I was the designer, I would probably allow people to make my own crimes, but that's dreaming a little bit. But I'm really looking forward to that. I know Rado did a run through that showed it with the app, and he had he put you inside the app. It's only a minute teaser. It's not a spoiler or anything, but it showed how he was looking around the scene. And I think you can each person playing the game can look at the scene for 1 minute or some amount of time and look for clues. And then when you find the clues, you scan the cards, and it kind of gives you this puzzle and crime that you got to figure out. And then it's sort of like a Sherlock Holmes consulting detective, where at the end of the crime, you have to answer a whole bunch of questions. So if you've solved enough of the crime, you can hopefully figure it out and get a good score. Of course, each scenario is a one-time play, but hopefully there'll be a lot of scenarios that mix and match all the locations and people and items.
We shot an overview of this in Nürnberg as well. And they said that, yes, in this scenario, this guy might be the gardener, and this time he's the detective, and you just have different context for all the different things. So you can't make assumptions about what you see in one scenario when you come across it again.
Yeah, just because the guy looks suspicious doesn't mean he's actually...
Well, they all look suspicious. Those characters are drawn very kind of starkly. I mean, it's it reminds me of the old Alan Moon game where everybody kind of looks like they're decrepit on the cover.
It's poor lighting. That'll do it to you. It'll make you look like a murderer.
So you guys just got back from Cannes and attending the Festival International de Jeux. for our first time, or actually Eric has been before, but this was our first time actually exhibiting there and doing the live stream. What do you guys think of it?
It was great having a booth this time. In 2017, we walked around and filmed at various booths, which works okay, but of course you have to set up at every single booth you go to and try to catch people at different times. And it was a very French experience in that before the show, when I wrote to all the publishers that I knew would be there, I only heard from like 15 of them. I'm not really sure. It was not that many. We had a huge number of open blocks in which to broadcast. But then I walked around at the beginning of the day and I'd catch people, or people would walk by and be like, "Oh, you've got a booth." And it's like, "Yes, I wrote you." But, "Oh, okay, we'll go on camera." And we just fill it up.
Yep.
So it's interesting to see that. And of course, hopefully we go back in 2019. I'm sure there'll be a little more response this time and we can probably fill up 4 days with scheduling. We kept coming across all sorts of things, which I know Lincoln will talk about, some things that he found or that I saw in passing, didn't even know existed, and that we got them on camera.
Yeah, one of those was Edgar and Lucien, which it was an amazing looking, the quality of the game was amazing looking, and the game seemed really, really interesting. I was battling whether I should buy a copy and bring it home, but I had zero space. It was so bad. The other game that was really exciting was Monumental from Funforge and Matthew Dunstan. That had that really interesting 9-card grid that you would choose a vertical and a horizontal, vertical column and a horizontal row to tap, essentially, or to exhaust. And then you could add other cards that would buff up that one that you would, when you tap it, it would do multiple things. It really, really looks amazing. I can't wait. They had some minis for that too that looked really nice. Funforge said that they are not going to do any painted mini Kickstarters again. That was very complicated with Tokaido, so they don't want to do that again.
And to tie into what we were talking about before, Monumental is a Kickstarter exclusive coming to the crowdfunding site in the middle of March, be out, and then if you don't back it, I guess maybe at conventions and otherwise.
Oh, really? That's not coming to stores either?
No.
It's a little bit scary, but that sounds like the way things are going to be going, especially with fulfillment services. And
yeah, lower your risk.
So you guys also attended the OFF, which is in reference to Off Can, which is from the film festival, where the films that didn't get shown in the festival got shown off Can. So I guess they've titled that sort of in the same vein as the film festival. What was that like?
I'm glad you know the history of that name, because they did not have it. They just had a little like Nuit de Off, which is like the Nights of Off.
I did some research while you guys were streaming.
Oh, that's good. So the Off took place in the Palais de Festival itself, just on the top floor. So it was still in the same building. It was just, in a different area. And there's just, oh my God, there's so many dozens of people filling this room. It is huge.
It was unbelievable. There's so many, there's all these great games. You'll see stuff. They're very open with showing their games early. We ran into Bruno Catala, and he brought us over to his prototype, which I don't remember what it was. Eric might recall.
Something about the Hanging Gardens of Babylon.
That's right. And it was just great. He's like, yeah, come on over and check it out. And then I think we asked him as well how the name came. And I kept asking and didn't get an answer. And Sebastian, on a user on BGG, wrote me and told me exactly what Aldi said, which is just, it's related to the film festivals where they have stuff showings elsewhere off of the festival.
Yeah. The event lasts 4 nights, which is longer than the fair itself. It starts at 10 p.m., runs to 4 a.m. And it's jam-packed. Everyone reserves tables ahead of time to show all their stuff. And Repo is showing Seven Wonders Armada. And
Concept Kids.
Yeah, Concept Kids. Well, yeah, Concept Kids, but Seven Wonders Armada, right? You go play it.
Yeah.
7 months before it's out, and you can try it out there.
People were playing it.
Yeah, and they're just, as you said, they're very open. They talk about whatever, and there's different publishers at different tables doing all this stuff, and then there's game designers, well-published, established designers doing all their stuff, just like Bruno Catala, and he's like, this is awesome. This is where you show things, and it's like, right, rubber meets the road. see whether it works. So you get real feedback from people rather than just people you already know.
Yeah, they want that immediate. They want to start basically getting people outside of their circle getting feedback from on the games right away. And Cedric on our live stream told a story about how the game, because of the game Good Question, I believe, that they did, which I think was their second game, Repos, they had got a lot of feedback about the cover and how it wasn't appropriate for the U.S. market. So now they want that information way before they go to press, right? They want to know, they want to be able to make sure that it fits in the most markets possible. And so that was kind of interesting too.
Yeah, I remember that story. He had the sombrero and the sexy woman and
the beer and the, a drink and a question about your mother-in-law,
Yeah, it was like they had misstepped many times. Not just one problem with that cover, but there was like 4 or 5 problems with the cover.
Yes.
But it's great to hear that. Like, that's a cool feedback, instantaneous feedback. Like, especially if you can get some English-speaking people to look at your game beforehand.
Cedric showed up on Sunday when Eric was gone, Comant from Repos, and he was telling us about the hard sell of Cash and Guns to the German publishers when they were trying to market it, and they had guns, and the Germans they opened it up and they'd see the guns, they're like, nope, and so they were kind of like just walking around the fair, and he saw those foam play area mats on display, and he goes to the guy, you got to sell me one of those. And the guy's like, no, I have to have it for the show. And so finally he ended up convincing the guy to sell him one of those pads for 50 euros. And then they took scissors and cut out the guns and then went back to the German publishers and sold the game.
Right. That is hilarious.
So they had like little plastic toy guns and then they turned it into foam.
Yes.
It's interesting, that marketing there. There was an example of that with the French publisher GameFlow, who announced the game Complicity a few weeks before Cannes, and people on BGG were like, no, Complicity has negative overtones in English. You are actually trying to work together with people and agree with them. And in French, there's no negative overtone to the word complicité, but in English there is. And so by the time they showed it in Cannes on camera, 2 or 3 weeks later, the game was called Affinity. Just the same game, but just a new name. So it's like this very outward marketing all the time and getting feedback from people. So
I think even on the stream you had one of those situations with the word souvenir, which means memories in French, but to us in America it means something totally different.
Yeah, it's interesting to see that.
So yeah, kind of interesting.
Hey Scott, is there any Board Game Geek news you want to tell us about?
There sure is, Lincoln. We have lots of stuff going on at Board Game Geek. As of this episode airing, you will have 1 day left to vote for the Golden Geek Awards. The nominees have come out, of course, and the voting has started, and you have 1 more day to go vote for your favorite games. It's real easy. You can just rank them in the order of preference. You don't have to rank everything. You just rank the games you like. Also, BGGCon tickets have gone on sale a couple days ago, and perhaps we're sold out. I don't know, of course. That would be predicting the future, but we're probably going to be sold out. But make sure to get on that waiting list.
Absolutely get on that waiting list. Most people actually get tickets.
We're also heading to the Gamma Trade Show to do some live streaming next week, so be sure to follow us on twitch.tv/BoardGameGeekTV, and you'll get notified when we go live. I believe we're going to be doing Thursday and Wednesday. So Wednesday and Thursday of next week. And have some great stuff lined up for you from the American game market, mostly American. And anything else, Eric?
We actually will have, ideally, a small feature on Tuesday, March 13th, with Andrew Navarro from Fantasy Flight. We'll be showing us titles to be determined. That's the official name right now. And then, yes, we have full days, 10:30 to 6 Pacific time, GMT +8, I think, on March 14th and 15th. With the schedules mostly full at this point, we will fit in what we can. We have our own room this time in which to broadcast, and we'll see what's there when we show up. Maybe we go later. Maybe we start earlier. I don't know. I guess it depends on our whims.
We can do whatever we want because that room, I think, is not connected to the game trade floor.
Right. We're not in the exhibit hall, so I don't know. We'll see. It's a new experiment in Reno. And New City.
And pack your sweater because I heard it's cold.
Okay.
We'll wrap up this week's episode with a little bit of video that Eric and I shot while we were in Cannes, so hopefully that's something enjoyable for you guys.
So thank you everybody for watching this episode of the Board Game Geek Show. We really appreciate the comments and feedback you guys have been giving us, and it's been really lifting our spirits and inspiring us to do more shows and like this. So thank you, Eric, and thank you, Lincoln.
See you, Scott. See you, Eric.
See you guys in Reno.
And we'll see you next time.
Hey, this is Eric Martin of Board Game Geek. We are here at Cannes at the Festival International des Jeux in 2018. This is Off, Nuit de Off. It's the night at the Off. This is an area where people come to show off prototype games. There are hundreds and hundreds of people here. You just saw a little panorama of what's here. This event lasts for 4 nights. It runs from 10 p.m. to 4 a.m. for 4 nights, which is longer than the fair itself lasts. That's only 3 nights. And it's been going on for a long time, many years. There's lots of professional designers, amateur designers, professional publishers, wannabe publishers. Everybody here is scouting, and tons of people just playing prototypes. So maybe we'll look around, see what's here. And we'll take a walk around the Off right now, see what we can see, do a fast panorama here. Or we'll just run into Bruno.
Hi. You want to see my prototype?
Sure, of course.
Come on, guys.
Okay, here we go. So I know Off lasts 4 nights. Are you here all 4 nights doing things?
5.
5 nights.
Yes, Wednesday, first day, Friday. No, 5. Yes, you're right. 4. Yes,
Nice.
over 4 nights.
Okay.
I'm sleeping only 3 hours each night, but it's okay.
You're here. You stay till 4 in the morning when it closes, or no?
No. I think I will leave at something like 3.
Okay. Amateur, I guess.
Yes.
But this is not your first Off.
No, for sure not. My first time was in 2001. So, but in 2001 we were only 10 people.
Okay.
Maybe 2 or 3 designers and just gamers, and we found a door which was not closed, and nobody knew we were inside. It was a real Off. Today it's organized for sure, because for security reason it will not be possible to make a
Right, because you sign up for a table, you sign up for space. Sure.
yeah, that's it.
Okay. All right. That's good. And you come and just play.
Yes,
Whatever.
just demonstrating my last ideas, showing how it works, taking some feedbacks from gamers, and then maybe adapting some things, and let's see.
Okay.
Yes.
This is how you get so good at your own games too.
Yes, because I'm not working really alone.
Well, I just know I played prototypes with you, or unfinished versions of games, and you're always
But
you're
you know-
crushing us always.
Yes, but on that kind of event, I have to admit that I'm not coming with prototypes which are in early stage of development.
Right.
Because you never know who will be around the table, and some people won't have the capacity to understand that it will be improved.
Right.
And they will take the game like it is now, and they could speak with very bad advices, very bad comments.
All right.
So I prefer to come with something which is very close to 100%, which is the case of this one.
Okay.
Maybe very slight adjustment, fine-tuning, but the development is mainly finished.
Okay. You want to talk about the game, or we'll look at it
Yeah,
another
if you
time?
want. We are building the Hanging Gardens of Babylon. So it's tile placement, it's area control, and it's 2 to 4 players. It's 15 minutes per player. It's very fast with very nice strategies, very different strategies you can take. So it could make a game with very nice components. I think something spectacular.
And right now, I mean, it already looks like it could be, as you say, a finished game.
Yeah.
You know,
It's just a prototype.
yes.
It's the only picture I took on internet just to build my prototype. So now my job is to try to seduce a publisher now.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks very much.
Thank you very much, guys.
We'll wander around. What's up here? Thank you. Even publishers who are headed to Kickstarter are already set with everything here at the off, both for publicity and I suppose final testing.
Hi.
Nice to see you at the off here. What is your name, please?
I am Alain Brobecker.
Okay. What are the two games that you are showing here?
So it's the same game but with a different design.
Okay.
It's called Polissimo Challenge. It will be out this year from the company Jeco, which I already work with. I make usually logic games. And this is a game about polyminos, placing, and it's very tactical and geometrical for 2 to 4 players from 8 years on.
Okay.
I explain the game?
Yeah. You want to talk about it a little more? What the goal is?
Yes. There are, vous attendez juste un tout petit instant. There are 24 pieces. First part of the game is people take the pieces and they grab them for them. Oh, okay, my English is terrible. I am quite sorry.
Yes, yes.
So here they have their pieces. Now the second part is they will put it on the board and try to put the most of their pieces. At the end, it's the player with the less squares remaining which wins. Here it's the player on the left. He has
10
and 16 here.
Okay.
Really, the aim of the game is encore un petit instant. If I put the pieces like this, and I own the green piece, I am the only one who can put it here. So the game really is about creating spaces for his own. This piece is to this player, so he must create space for it. Okay. But the other player won't let it go this way.
We're here with Christian Lemay from Scorpion Masqué with a prototype, an unnamed prototype.
Yes, so still the mechanism are fixed, but we have to find the right theme and the right title and the universe it will be in.
Okay.
So
right now it's showing it off and getting ideas from people? Or?
Yes, well, and also making the game known, because this is a place to make players play, of course, and so maybe people, when the game will be released, will know it and maybe buy it if they like it.
Okay, I remember that game from 2 years ago when it was the fish game.
Yeah, it's still
fish organization. I'm not sure.
So I think you can
fish filing.
So I think you can play it right now. You understand there are some cards on the table, and every player got a board like this, and you move as quickly as possible your pieces to get them in the same pattern than on the cards here. When you have a matching pattern, which is not the case right now, but let's say I have, you take the card and you flip a new card for the table. And at the end of the deck, the player with the most cards wins.
Okay.
This is a pretty amazing event, right? I mean, I guess they were telling me that it was just very small. I don't remember now. And somebody today, I mean, staying up late for the off was a bad idea. I am so tired.
That's right. We do have film, which is good for you.
Yeah, but
and we actually show this, but
it doesn't start till 10.
It destroys you.
They're like, oh, it starts at 9. We get there, and it doesn't start till 10. And we were like sitting around a while before we could actually
played
go
some
in.
games.
Yeah,
We played
it
the
was
mine.
fine. It was great, but the reality was it was quite a while before we were actually able to even go in. And then we get in there, it's just slammed. I don't know. They must have all run in it.
Yes, I know. We went in at like 10:10 or something,
Yeah,
10:15,
it was
and
totally
every
packed.
table full.
And totally packed with people, but it's
Yeah.
great. It's interesting all the things you have to figure out, and it's a major language barrier for us. And when we were stuck outside yesterday, I don't know if I mentioned this earlier, but I saw other publishers and things with me. So I saw Croc from Space Cowboys and Sebastian from
Pearl Games.
yeah, and
Pierre Charles from Space Super Meeple.
yes. And so I saw these guys and I'm like, well, they're confused too. So at least I'm not alone. And if I stick with one of these guys, I'm likely to get back in. Although that didn't really work out because one of the guys, we met with him the day before. He was on video. He's a designer, and he said, "I think we're standing here for no reason. So, like we're waiting for somebody to come back to let us in, and it was just
There's
not
nothing
happening.
happening. Yeah.
It was terrible. Yeah,
Where
more.
are you, 15
It's interesting. Like
videos?
there's been some coordination on what we show because you knew when we were at Nuremberg. Well, I'm going to see them at
Con,
at
so
Con,
we don't have to record
and,
now.
and even then, we're at Nuremberg, and they're like, "We'll see you at Gamma." So that's what's really amazing is they're doing the same thing, coming to all. But you kind of need to, right? Obviously, Gamma's important for retail.
You're in those markets.
Yes,
Yeah.
but
Start seeing new things.
pretty amazing. Pretty amazing, and amazing that we're still standing. We'll see how we do after. This. I was speaking to. I can't remember his name from Scorpion Mask. The other
Christian.
guy. The other guy. He came up to double check. He stopped by to tell us that Christian was late, and then who ended up not being late, and then
Yes. I was
came back
early.
and he was just. I just said how welcoming everybody's been to us. It's been really, really great situation for us because we definitely. I don't feel super uncomfortable or anything like with the language, but we don't know what's going on for a lot of this stuff.
That's right.
And
that's
everybody
because
is.
we're talking to all the publishers who are coming in speaking English for
Yeah,
us.
it's great. But the great thing is they're helping us with information and clarifying things, and it's really unbelievable the support we've had. So this is really, really good.
Yeah.
This has been the most welcoming convention I've ever been to.
Really?
Don't you feel? Like everybody, I'm not saying Essen is
Yeah.
is cold or anything, but
It's a lot. It's
the
bigger.
level of everybody around us is like, if you need anything, please ask.
That's right.
No matter what, people we don't even know at all. are like,
Usually, yes, it's also you go to their booth and like, do you want coffee?
yeah. That
Great.
was
You
me
like
in
chips?
Nuremberg too, man. When they were like offering us water, I'm like, yes, every time. But it's been great. They're really, really, really welcoming, and it's. I suppose that's just the French, but it's really great.
That's right.
It's been a really.
Offer you kisses.
Yeah, oh yeah, that too. I'm very clumsy with that. I'm not. I noticed you can do better than me, although your hair was getting caught
a
up
little
last night,
experience there.
or your beard was going to get caught up with somebody's hair. But I'm just not used to that, and I don't feel it's weird or anything. I just need to figure it out. Like, what's going on exactly and how to do it. I think Sophie Gravel was my first French, greeting a while back, and I was totally like, what?
Yes. This is how it works.
But she was very nice when she came out the video too.
Yeah, it was great.
So
Good to see you.
it's good. Yeah, Reef, I can't wait. And now that we know how to play it after we played it, we really weren't playing it correctly for at least half the game, I think.
I don't think it was that much.
Was it? Okay. Well,
No.
we both kind of figured out,
First quarter.
yeah. But we didn't play the whole game either, but man, it looks like a good game too. Okay, guys, talk to you and see you tomorrow.